Hi everyone, Roy here. Thought I'd do a sort of haul video talking about various books that have come my way over the past few weeks and why I've got them, what I hope to do with them. So, to start with, as we live in a town called Ormskirk, and as Priya Sharma is, I know, a great modern fantasy and horror writer, a book called Ormeshadow I thought was irresistible. It's nothing to do with Ormskirk, it's nothing to do with this end of the country, but it does sound good. It's a gorgeous fantasy in the tradition of Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea books. Sounds good. A coming-of-age story as dark and rich as good soil. So, yeah. Buying books for the titles. It's like betting on racehorses just because you like the name, I suppose. But I've got a good feeling about this one. I've mentioned before reading Louisa May Alcott and L M Montgomery sort of darker tales. So for L M Montgomery of Anne of Green Gables fame, here's this beautiful paperback, and this is to me what my favourite kind of book in terms of size, paper stock, etc., and you know, an actual painting on the cover and stuff like that. And I love the way it's been made to look gothic. So it looks like a great collection as well. I've read a few already, so that's good. Then for Louisa May Alcott, 12 Thrilling Tales by Louisa May Alcott, called A Whisper in the Dark. So that's a big chunky hardback. And it's good. I mean, it's an enjoyable collection, but I don't quite like this kind of book as much as I like this kind of book. And I've got a feeling these aren't quite the stories I was looking for. So, you know, really looking for the sort of supernatural, gothic and so on, that kind of thing that's like different from what you expect from the authors of these their famous classics such as Little Women, the Anne series. So not without difficulty I found this. Louisa May Alcott. The Unknown Thrillers of Louisa May Alcott, Behind a Mask. So again, you see, what I was worried about was I would be prejudiced against Alcott in the competition because I don't like the format of the book so much. But now we've got a level playing field, okay? So, you know, I love this in its battered form. Again, great gothic cover. The woman isn't running away from the scary house. She's actually standing there more as if she owns it, which is interesting. So this collection, put together by Madeline Stern, who I gather was a sort of legendary antiquarian bookseller and as well as being an editor. The whole rationale is lurid, blood-curdling tales. Here, uncovered by two ingenious literary sleuths, are the lurid, blood-curdling tales Louisa May Alcott wrote secretly under a pseudonym. Read them and discover the dark side of the author of Little Women, eerie and exotic settings, plots abounding in mystery and menace, strong-willed, passionate heroines scheming for love, money and revenge. From a mansion encircled by screaming peacocks to a female Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, these blood and thunder stories are as suspenseful and entertaining as they are revealing of her author. That's what I wanted. So I think the Alcott versus Montgomery competition kicks off in earnest now. So I'm really looking forward to digging into this. Actually, there is an overlap. One of the stories, the Abbott's Ghost, is in both collections. But I've now got Behind a Mask, or A Woman's Power, Pauline's Passion and Punishment, The Mysterious Key and What It Opened. as well as some interesting introductory stuff. So hooray! So that was fun. Like I say, I like this book, and when I saw that there were some other anthologies produced by the same publisher, so Bantam, they basically published every jot and tittle of Montgomery they could possibly find, as well as bringing out things like cookbooks and address books and stuff like that. So, you know, she was their cash cow, I suppose, for a while. So I like these. I just like the design, you know, and I think I'm right in saying that these covers probably come from a sort of an era where not only would you get actual illustrations, but also manually done graphic design for things like the lettering and the mastheads. So I was sort of set out to get a few more of these Bantams, more as a sort of collecting thing really. But that's been fraught with difficulty, because for every success there's been the kind of failure where the photo on the listing isn't the book you get. I mean, they're all very cheap. I'm not spending more than £3 on any of them, but you know, it's disappointing to get something like this. It's a bit newer, you know, it's fine, I suppose, but it's a bit newer. The lettering, that looks more like sort of desktop publishing era to me. You know, so I'm having to send them back. I thought I'd console myself with a Puffin. So Puffin UK children's publishers, their Anna Green Gables looks good if I can't get the Bantam one. So order one of those. What turns up? This. So I'm back and forth to the post office like a lunatic, sending books back because of my mania for this sort of lettering. Well, there you go. Okay, moving on. Western. Next month will be the June on the Range event, and I heard tell via an email from the author about this Chap O'Keefe book, which I did think looked very... I really like the cover design of this as well. It's a modern cover design, but it's got some nice retro aspects about it, and just feels like a nice book, really. So Chap O'Keefe, a well-respected veteran Western writer, peace at any price, promising lost friends, lost love amid war and hurricane turmoil. And you got some good endorsements from Thomas P. McNulty. Sounds good. Anne Parkan, Nick Morton. So yeah, this will definitely be one of my June on the Range Western reads. Classic Western, looks like a classic Western. It's even a Black Horse extra book, so it somehow relates to a classic Western publisher. So this we like. Talking of events, dear boy, events. Star Trek. Now, I've said how we're reading the Captain's Table series. I've read the first one. I still owe you some blether about it. There are 6 of these, so basically you get a different Star Trek captain. The framing sequence is there's this bar where you have to be a captain of something, which might somehow seem to be like a pirate ship or things throughout time, but you have to be some sort of captain, and storytelling is a thing that's happening there. So then you get these first-person stories by Star Trek captains. So I've got the 6 books. There's also a Tales from the Captain's Table book, so I've capped off the collection with that. So now we get a Jonathan Archer story, a Chakotay story, David Gold of the USS Da Vinci. I do not know him. Could be. There are some characters who are only in the books. Kieran Reese, Clag, son of Mrak of the IKS Gorkon. Picard again, Riker. Elizabeth Shelby, and a Sulu story. So yes, this looks good. So should be pretty well supplied for. They call it Book Trek, I think, the sort of summer Star Trek reading event, which I've never quite managed to participate in. Then I've also got this, Spock Must Die, by James Blish. Oddly, this cropped up in relation to James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake, which I'm involved in a read-along of. Because James Blish, the author, is a big James Joyce enthusiast, and apparently there's some references in this novel. And, you know, fantastic cover. Pretty short. Again, that'll be a good Book Trek read, I think. I've sort of heard it said it was the first Star Trek novel in the sense of not being an adaptation of episodes. But I've heard the same thing said about Mission to Horatius, which I've not read either. This is a juvenile, so maybe this is the first adult one. I don't know. Sort it out amongst yourselves, boys. But yeah, looking forward to that. So those are my Trek supplies. Then, let's talk Nancy Drew. In another spin-off from Finnegan's Wake, and I won't explain the chain of links, but there is one. Also in June, going to do a buddy read of the first Nancy Drew mystery story with Book Chat with Pat. So that is The Secret of the Old Clock. Iconic cover. Mine's actually a sort of ace double kind of thing, where it's not an ace double, but it's a double with, we get the second book as well. So looking forward to that. I've dipped into the Nancy Drew series, always really liked them, read later ones. Okay, so have you ever bought a book and realised you got it already? Well, I have. So I've now got 2 Secret of Redgate Farms. What's interesting is that you can see the Nancy Drew fashion sense over the years. So I think that's an early 60s one. And this, obviously the same story, came out in the 80s, British edition, where fantastic 80s fashion. I mean, look at the amount of fabric in that denim shirt she's rocking there. She's got a bit of a Mardy face for some reason. Perhaps the approaching hooded figures might be lowering the mood somewhat. Anyway, Redgate Farm I can read in stereo. And also, oh yes, these Nancy Drew diaries. I think that's a current thing, and I think these might be for younger ages. Maybe they're middle grade. I got this one, Superstitions of the Scottish Play, because I thought I could read it during Shake-Tember. So that's a reading event about Shakespeare. As far as I know, is unlikely to include prompts about things that aren't actually by Shakespeare. It's usually watching Shakespeare plays, and it's a fantastic event I really like. But I thought, on my own recognisance, I would read this as well during that time when we're in the sort of Shakespeare zone. I've actually got a Sweet Valley High book as well, also revolving around a performance of the same play. Finally, I've also picked up this Passport to Larkspur Lane. This is a very old British edition, and if it had the dust jacket, it would be a valuable book. As it doesn't, it's a non-valuable book, but I mean, the dust jacket is great, but I really like the famous silhouette and the illustration on the end papers. I think there's an extra illustration as well. yeah, so I sort of picked that up for the hell of it, really. So Nancy Drew, we know of, but lest we forget, Valerie Drew. Valerie Drew, a British, possibly a copy of Nancy Drew, or a coincidence of the names, who knows, but she was in this Schoolgirls Weekly starting in the 1930s, so I was keen to read a story of her as well. And I'll come back to this. I thought I'd bought one of these from a fantastic bookshop called The Sanctuary in Lyme Regis, but I've actually got two as well, so these look great. I'll do a video about these magazines as magazines and the stories as well. It was here that Sylvia Silence, a girl detective who preceded any girl detective with the surname Drew, published in the 1920s, appeared. It's another Finnegan's Wake thing, don't worry about it. But look, there's a woman in a red mask and everything. I did mention we're watching TV adaptation of Anthony Trollope's The Pallisers, and to hopefully read eventually, I have a series of the TV tie-in novels. And I noticed how it's rare to see stuff printed on the inside cover, but there's a sort of a tie-in with the tie-in being promoted here. The Radio Times is publishing an 84-page illustrated special, capital S, which explains the historical background of Trollope's 6 political novels. Price 30p. Well, I thought 30p, that's pretty reasonable for 84 pages, so here it is. So I guess if nothing else, this shows that in the sort of mid-70s they were making a big thing out of this Pallisers adaptation. It's, whether anyone would actually want some of this content. I mean, Plantagenet Palliser is a great character, but do you want a gigantic pin-up of him? I haven't really delved into this yet. Looks like we've got our own giant head of Anthony Trollope, and the promised background material. This could be really interesting. Oh my god. Spoiler, there's going to be a duel. People are going to fight a duel. Wow. Excellent. So, yes, that's another magazine I've acquired from the 70s. Was once delivered to somebody called Parrish by the newsagent's boy. There they are again. I don't know. People who know the actress Susan Hampshire, I don't think for some reason in still photos, she doesn't look like herself, I think. Anyway, what will I do with this? At some point, probably make it into a Plantagenet Palliser mask that I can wear for some reason. Okay, thanks for watching. We love you all. Back soon with something else.